Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to take a look at the 8 Harry Potter movies and try to point out each one's biggest weakness. Of course I love all these films, so in some cases I only come up with relatively small things, since the movies are just too good. That being said, let's get straight into it and start with the first one on the list. The Philosopher's Stone introduced us to the visuals of the wizarding world for years to come, and it did a damn good job. I had a lot of trouble coming up with a major mistake here, and the scene I'm going to point out may sound small, but it has consequences for the rest of the series. I'm talking about the first ever interaction between Harry and Snape. Although this scene includes Snape asking Harry questions no first year is supposed to know in both the book and the movie, there is one difference. In the film, Harry is taking notes which Snape interprets as him not paying attention, whereas in the books Harry doesn't do anything to provoke Snape's attention. The difference is subtle, but it holds a lot of weight. In the books, Snape's dislike of Harry is totally random, while in the films you at least get an excuse of a reason for it. This starts the reoccurring theme of movie Snape not being as cruel as book Snape, which I think has given a lot of fans the wrong impression of him. Moving on to Chamber of Secrets, it was still hard for me to point out one big flaw. I know this adaptation isn't a fan favorite, and I agree that it is one of the weakest Harry Potter films, but I actually don't think there is a lot wrong with it. Maybe the storyline of this particular book just didn't translate to the screens as well as others. In the end, I've decided that my biggest dislike about it is that they didn't put the deleted scene in which Harry overhears Hufflepuffs gossiping about him in the library in the final cut. I loved the scene when I watched the extended cut for the first time, and I think it adds a lot to conveying how isolated and misunderstood Harry feels throughout some parts of the second year at Hogwarts. The Prisoner of Azkaban movie is the first one that was pretty obvious to me, and I think a lot of you will agree with me when I say that this film's biggest screw up was not including the Marauders' backstory. I mean, we're told that James, Remus, Sirius and Peter were friends, but the movie never explains that they were the ones who created the Marauders map, and they left out that they all became animagi to be with Remus when he transformed, which is in my eyes the biggest testament to their friendship we see in all of the series, especially given how extremely hard it is to become an animagus. The Goblet of Fire movie gets a lot of hate, and although I really enjoy watching it, I get where people are coming from. There are a lot of mistakes in this film, but for me the biggest one is that they show Barty Crouch Jr. from the beginning. In the book it's a huge mystery who conjured the Dark Mark at the Quidditch World Cup, who Voldemort's secret asset is, and why Barty Crouch Sr. is acting so weird, while the movie doesn't even cover this storyline. This was a big letdown for me because it removed suspense and made Barty Jr.'s character feel pretty random. In my opinion, the Order of the Phoenix movie was executed almost perfectly. I definitely missed Quidditch, and the length of the film would have given opportunity to include it, but I don't think you can count this as a mistake because the film worked well without it. What I do think they messed up though is Neville being the one to find out about the Room of Requirement. In the book it was Dobby who found it, and since Dobby's task of providing Harry with gillyweed in the Goblet of Fire also went to Neville, we desperately need some Dobby moments in the Order of the Phoenix to show the close relationship he has with Harry, which is necessary to understand the significance of Dobby's death in the Deathly Hallows. Cutting him out is understandable because the Deathly Hallows book released shortly after the Order of the Phoenix film, so the filmmakers had no way of knowing, but JK still could have stepped in and made sure Dobby got to play his part. The Half-Blood Prince is my favorite book and also my favorite movie. I know the movie gets almost as much hate as Goblet of Fire, and I think this hate is absolutely deserved, but still the Half-Blood Prince did the best job of showing Hogwarts life as a teenager and the struggle between youthful innocence and the looming threat of the war. That's what I enjoy most about it, and that is what the movie did well. However, the movie had some major screw-ups, and I think a lot of you will agree with me when I say the biggest one is Harry and Ginny's relationship. I mean, if you only saw the film, you probably won't even know that they were dating, because you only see one awkward kiss and a little remark at the ending. They just had no on-screen chemistry, which is a no-go since they are the most important couple in the whole series. The Deathly Hallows Part 1 did a good job of bringing the first half of the Deathly Hallows book to the big screen, but I think splitting the book in two was the biggest problem this movie had to face. It does a lot of build-up, but we have no real climax until the end of Part 2. They ended Part 1 right after the escape from Malfoy Manor, which was definitely a really exciting scene, but it just can't compare to the finales of the previous books and films, since it was never intended to compete with these scenes. This makes Deathly Hallows Part 1 feel a lot less rewarding than most of the other Harry Potter films. I think the Deathly Hallows Part 2 movie was almost perfect. It was a worthy ending for the series and tied up all the major knots. The biggest problem with this movie is, in my opinion, the final battle between Harry and Voldemort. In the book, everyone who's still standing from the Battle of Hogwarts watches the showdown in the Great Hall. You can finally sense Harry's superiority, and Harry talks down to Voldemort, explaining to him all the mistakes he has made before they actually battle. This feels a lot more heroic than the movie battle, in which they are alone in the courtyard. I really like this final demonstration of how much Harry has learned and how Voldemort is absolutely finished. It just feels like the more appropriate ending for me. And that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me all about your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And I hope to see you next time on Percival. Keep it magic.